have died countless deaths, been reborn every single time. I keep the corpses of my older selves buried deep within my heart, for in my mind, they become the authors of great horrors. I am a child of creation, and creation I am. I become more of myself through this spinning wheel of time, a spiral unfolding that is always connected with its origin. Life unfolds in funny ways sometimes. My last video was about being in the unknown, and that is exactly where I've been since I uploaded it. I was kind of pushed to rest, reflect, and change my perspective on some things in my life. Probably because it's difficult to really be in tune with our inner world when we're constantly on the go and taking action. A major theme that I've been reflecting on these past few weeks is looking at how I internally separated myself from the past versions of myself. And so, the topic I want to discuss in this video is internal separation. If you've seen my previous videos, you might know that something I've really had to work on is my self-worth. In a way, my life has taken a complete 180-degree turn, and I have gone from feeling worthless and stupid to finding my inherent value and wisdom, which is something we all hold inside of us. But to truly accept this new identity, I've had to be open to changing myself and the stories that were attached to me. And once I no longer felt like I did in the past, I separated myself from my past versions. I told myself I wasn't that person anymore. I was an upgraded version. The problem with this narrative was the lack of acceptance for my past self. It implied that I was broken or not good enough in the past. What this internal separation led to was a lot of turmoil whenever something or someone triggered a part of me that was still wounded by my past. I believe that's because when we don't accept a part of ourselves, we unconsciously give it permission to act like a child who desperately needs attention and love whenever we're triggered. Once I took some time to rest after uploading my last video, I started thinking back to the person I used to be, and I realized I didn't see my past self through my own eyes, but instead through the distorted eyes of people who cast judgment on me. And the thing with judgment is that most often than not, how we view someone has nothing to do with who they actually are, but instead with how we feel about ourselves being like the person we're judging. Me looking at myself through other people's eyes was a coping mechanism to feel safe and not attract any conflict towards myself. I didn't deliberately keep myself small. It's just how I felt safe and how I was programmed to act. And perhaps with the life I was given and the environment I was in, that was the best I could do for myself. I didn't want to keep seeing my past self through the eyes of others. That was unfair to myself. So, for the very first time, I saw my past versions through my own eyes. And what I saw was a little girl who was told at every step how inadequate she was. And she believed it all. A part of me still believed it. Otherwise, why would I ever separate myself from her? I realized I have always been the same person. just with different levels of awareness and empowerment. Contrary to my previous belief, I've always held the potential to be an empowered version of myself. It wasn't the specific experiences or the chain of events that caused me to become who I am now. I'm now sure that I would have found myself anyway, because that's just who I am, a student of life who is filled with curiosity, imagination, wonder, and a genuine and deep love for exploration and learning. It's easy to suppress feelings, to have limiting beliefs, to not want to change, and to turn bitter and rigid. What's not easy is having the strength and courage to go through difficult experiences, to transform yourself, and to still be soft and tender, to be kind and loving. Now that's something I have always embodied. And if tomorrow the whole world decides to scream at the top of their lungs that having such qualities means you are weak, I will still know the strength they hold in my entire being. And all this is not to victimize myself or claim I'm such a good person. Trust me, I've been awful to some people in my life as well, and I'm not proud of it. The bottom line is that it was through this understanding and recognition of my past self that I was able to rewrite the distorted narratives that weren't serving my growth and weren't even of my own making in the first place. We are multifaceted beings capable of holding paradoxical qualities within ourselves. Life is not black and white, but due to certain religious and scientific programming, we have conditioned ourselves into believing we, our life, or our whole reality must be a certain and specific way that is always fixed. This rigidity, delusion, and perfectionism cause so much projection, shame, conflict, and separation among us humans. There are so many psychological factors and influences that cause our inner separation beyond what I mentioned in my story. I certainly am yet to dissolve all inner separation. And perhaps we can all find some within ourselves if we listen to our inner thoughts and voices carefully enough. And honestly, most of it is not even of our own making. So much of it comes from outside sources, whether it is from the present or the past. As long as we live in societies and communities that promote or encourage themes of division and separation among humans as a whole, we will have to keep putting in individual efforts to dissolve our own internal separation. I believe it is a lifelong process for the most of us, and maybe we won't even get to see any external results on a collective level in our lifetime. But I'm sure this internal transformation will create ripple effects beyond what we can currently imagine. Now let us address a very important point. There are certain parts of us that hurt others or are genuinely detrimental to ourselves and the people around us. What do we do about that? And how do we respond to people who have those qualities? I'm gonna be very honest. I don't know the best or even a good way to deal with external separation. What I do know is that you cannot love someone into healing them to the detriment of yourself. I have learned that the hard way. If someone is trying to hurt us, we should absolutely defend or distance ourselves. And collectively, This plays out in the form of conflicts or wars. I have no clue how to go about that part. The only way I know how to make this world more united and harmonious is by first and foremost doing that for ourselves internally. We all make mistakes and wrong choices in life. The ability to choose one thing over another is something we all possess, and so, due to our desire to have the best experiences possible, we assign meanings to these choices, and through the lens of whatever kind of perception we have at the time, we choose what we feel is best for us. But perceptions change, we change, and so the meanings also change. We might look at our past experiences and wrongdoings as us being bad people in the past, or even the present, depending on our level of awareness and self-forgiveness. But something to consider is that we always have conscious and unconscious reasons for the choices we make. Being hard on ourselves for making a choice that we don't even fully understand is not at all helpful. It might prevent us from making similar mistakes in the future. But if we don't look at the root cause and try to heal it with compassion, the part of us that made that choice will still exist in our subconscious mind, and we will keep on hurting it whenever we feel like a bad person for the choice we made. When we encounter a part of ourselves that we feel shouldn't be a part of us, we can try to bury or shun it away, which causes problems like us judging or projecting on people who display similar qualities, which perpetuates further internal and external division, or creating a cycle of negative self-talk or criticism that can limit our ability to grow and evolve as people, which can create feelings of inadequacy or being inauthentic, which can push us to create fake personas that require constant external validation and push away meaningful relationships, etc. Something that I have noticed is that we and our shunned parts are metaphorically similar to a parent and their child. If a child is crying and their parent validates and helps them express their emotions in a healthy way, the child will feel safe to express their emotions and maybe even stop crying. But if a child is crying and their parent shouts at them for feeling what they do, the child might stop crying out of fear, but that child will become conditioned to not have access to the feelings that their parent has deemed shouldn't be felt. In that case, even if the parent is not present, the grown-up child will still not allow themselves to access those feelings because in their mind, it is something bad. Similarly, if we look at our shunned parts as a crying child, being mean to them might make them shut up, but it will not solve the root issue. And whether it is the case of a crying child or shunned parts of ourselves, what's buried doesn't just magically disappear or heal. These buried parts come out to scream for help whenever we're triggered or have a breakdown. Our choice is whether we shut them up to have them come up later again, or actually communicate with them to heal them and with that grow and transform as a person. Coincidentally or not, this video is going to be uploaded on Diwali. Diwali is the Indian festival of lights and it symbolizes the victory of light over darkness and good over evil. And when we hear that, we naturally think of a battle amongst these forces. But I think a mature way to deal with this conflict that we all have inside ourselves is actually by having a loving conversation with parts of us that are not necessarily bad, but instead hurting or wounded. Above anything, I feel like we all need to heal our distorted vision to see things and parts of ourselves clearly. Because if we don't even see things for what they actually are, how can we integrate them? Death and destruction just perpetuate more of the same. It is not the way to grow in a healthy manner. So please, be kind to yourselves and others. It is what we all need. And that is all I have to express in this video. It's kind of funny because the very first video I uploaded was right before Diwali last year. I talked about detachment in it, and today I'm talking about embracing all parts of ourselves. I feel so happy and fulfilled with how much I've learned and grown just through making these videos. So thank you so much for accompanying me on this journey. Also, since my art is quite abstract, I would love to hear your interpretation of it, because I believe art speaks to people who know how to truly listen. Thank you so much for coming on this art trip with me, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.